Hello, today's topic is about thromboembolism. And in thromboembolism, we are going to see about all types of embolisms and other miscellaneous causes for embolism. Causes of death from a wound. And here in this video, we are going to discuss about thrombus and embolism. First and foremost, embolism is a process of partial or complete obstruction of some part of a cardiovascular system by a mass that have been carried in a circulation. And here the transported intravascular mass that have been detached from its site of origin is called as an embolus. And the most usual form of an emboli are thromboemboli, and they constitute around 90%. Thromboemboli means those are originating from a thrombi or the parts detached from a vessel wall. And here, most commonly, the reason being could be of a wound or otherwise in a local insult in a part of a vessel that has resulted in a thromboemboli. Depending upon the matter in the emboli can be divided into three. One is solid, liquid, and gaseous form. And in case of a solid, it is a detached thrombi or otherwise in a thromboembolic, erythematous material, tumor cell clumps, tissue fragments. Other solid forms of emboli are parasites, bacterial clumps, or any sort of foreign body. And in case of a liquid, it could be of a flat globules or an amniotic fluid or a bone marrow. And in case of a gaseous, it could be of an air or any other gases act as an emboli. And depending upon whether the material is being infected or not, and it can be a bland emboli, then it means it is a sterile emboli. And in case of a septic, where an embolus material is being infected. Depending upon the source of emboli, it can be divided into four: a cardiac emboli, a arterial emboli, a venous emboli, and a lymphatic emboli. And here, a cardiac emboli usually arises from the left side of the heart. That means the emboli originating in a atrium and atrial appendages. And other examples are infarct in a left ventricle or otherwise in a vegetation from the endocarditis. And in case of an atrial emboli, they usually arise from the systemic arteries in brain, spleen, kidney, and intestine. And in case of venous emboli, they arise from a pulmonary arteries. And in case of a lymphatic emboli, they can sometimes occur and usually a rare cause of or a rare source of an emboli. Depending upon the flow of blood, emboli can be divided into two. One is paradoxal embolism and the second is retrograde embolism. Paradoxal embolism means it may occur by the passage of an embolus from right side of the heart to a left side of the heart, either through an atrial septal defect or otherwise through a ventricular septal defect. In this way, the pulmonary emboli may reach systemic circulation and the vice versa. And in case of retrograde embolism, there are an embolus material which travels against the flow of blood, and examples are metastatic deposits in spine due to a carcinoma of a prostate. And these are the most common site of origin for an embolism. And in case of a pulmonary embolism, most commonly it arises from or otherwise it originates from veins of lower extremities. And in case of a systemic embolism, they usually arise from a left ventricular system. And in case of a fat embolism, Most commonly, it is of a traumatic etiology. Most commonly arise from the bone masses or otherwise from the soft tissues. And in case of air embolism, the air embolism can be of a venous origin or an arterial origin. And in case of a venous origin, most commonly following a head and neck surgery or otherwise any obstetrical traumas. And in case of an atrial air embolism, it arises from due to a cardiothoracic surgery or any form of invasive angiographic techniques. And in case of amniotic fluid embolism, usually the components of an amniotic fluid act as an embolic or an embolizing material. Coming to other atheroembolism, where artemetous plaque act as an embolus, and they commonly arise from any of the plaque materials on the part of a. And in case of a tumor embolism, where the tumor fragments being the site of origin. Coming to pulmonary thromboembolism, here embolism, it is the most common form and the very most fatal form of venous thromboembolism. Here in case it is due to an occlusion of a pulmonary arterial tree by a thromboembolic material. And here pulmonary emboli are more common in a hospitalized or otherwise in a bedridden patient. And second, other causes are ambulatory patients. This slide is about the features of pulmonary thromboembolism on a chest X-ray. According to the size of the emboli and according to the segment which has been affected due to a obstructed embolus on a part of a pulmonary artery, the presentations may vary. And here, three sorts of opacities can be demonstrated in a chest X-ray, where a cavitating or on a localized or on a lobular or otherwise in a segmental sort of opacities, they vary from size and shape, can be demonstrated. In case of a lower zone or the lower segment of the lung, where you can able to demonstrate linear opacities, and usually it will be bilateral in nature. And other type of opacities are wedge-shaped opacities, and the associated finding will be with the features of pleural effusions, where on aspiration you can able to see a blood stained effusion within the space. And in case where in X-ray finding, we can able to even demonstrate an enlarged pulmonary artery and the corresponding segment of a lung which has been involved, or on a pulmonary artery which is about to supply. The area will show oligemic field, oligemic picture can be seen. And according to the lung that have been affected, where a lung remains collapsed, so there been a elevated hemidiaphragm is also seen in part of a chest X-ray. Usually, pulmonary thromboembolism can be fatal within minutes. And here in case, it purely depends upon the size of the thromboembolic material or otherwise due to the constituent that have been present in a embolus material. And usually death can occur due to vagal inhibition or otherwise due to acute asphyxia or otherwise due to right-sided heart failure. And most commonly, according to the size of the emboli that have been involved, most commonly it will be fatal within few minutes after the onset of signs and symptoms. In part of a diagnosis, where an ECG can be ordered, in addition to sinus tachycardia, there will be low voltage deflections, and in S1, S3, T3 patterns were prominent S wave seen in lead 1, Q in case of lead 3, and inverted T shape in case of lead 3. and followed by right axis deviation, RBB, right bundle branch block. Features of These are the features of acute ECG in case of an acute pulmonary thromboembolism. And other way by which we can assess the clinical prognosis of the patient is by estimating the levels of D-dimer levels. If a case where D-dimer is negative, and the patient carries a lower risk where there is a minimal chances of DVT and or otherwise pulmonary embolism. If in case where D-dimer is negative and where there have been associated high risk factors, then ordering an ultrasound like with or without CT pulmonary angiogram and V by Q scan can be performed. In case where on the estimation of D-dimer levels, where there been a D-dimer positivity, and in case where the associated risk factors are present, then treat the patient and reconfirm the diagnosis by these imaging modalities. And if in case D-dimer is positive and risk is low, then again follow the investigation modalities to reconfirm the diagnosis. Pulmonary thromboembolism, where sudden death is possible. Second, acute core pulmonary sort of feature. Third, pulmonary infarction. Fourth, it can result in pulmonary hemorrhage, or it can even causes a resolution. According to the size of the emboli, it can be resolution can occur and recovery is possible, or otherwise it can land into a chronic pulmonary hypertension, or otherwise chronic core pulmonary or pulmonary arteriosclerosis can occur. These are the consequences of pulmonary thromboembolism. On autopsy, where a suspected a dilated or a distended part of a pulmonary artery is being dissected, on dissection we can able to see an emboli which is cylindrical in shape, firm, brittle, with a dull, matted or otherwise stated surfaces due to formation of fibrin lamination and often branching and frequently curled in structure. And if it been a old thrombus, it appears to be grayish red in color, and or otherwise it varies in color from the place to place, and otherwise according to the origin. And here in case pulmonary thrombi most commonly arises from the lower extremities, and where most commonly from the deep leg veins. So on autopsy, incising a midline of a calf muscles and expose the underlying tissues, and by reflecting gastrocnemius muscle, and then doing a cross section and squeezing it to see if there been a presence of an emboli, or otherwise in a part of a venule can be resected, and the embolus material can be resected at this level. Coming to fat embolism. In fat embolism, there have been an extensive list where fat embolism can occur, and there are other non-traumatic conditions, and we will see how to approach and what are the exceptions we need to consider before diagnosing a fat embolism, and what sort of a quantity will be fatal, and what are the clinical features, and how do we demonstrate them at autopsy have been discussed. Most fat embolism most commonly arises from a fracture of a long bone, and here in case the incidence is only 2%, but if in case where there have been a multiple fractures of any bone, the fat embolism incidence would have been higher, then it is around 10%. And second important cause is due to any injury to an adipose tissue which forces the liquid fat, then it can into a damaged blood vessel is the second most cause for a fat embolism. And third, due to an act of a criminal abortion, where by injecting an oil into a circulation will be the third possible cause for a fat embolism. Non-traumatic conditions that can cause fat embolism are sickle cell anemia, a diabetes following a blood transfusion, any sort of fatty changes in liver, septicemia, or associated with a steroid therapy, or features of acute pancreatitis can cause fat embolism, and osteomyelitis, liposuction surgeries, or otherwise in a decompression sickness disease. These are non-traumatic conditions for a fat embolism. Presence of fat droplets in a bloodstream. It indicates there been an injury that has been produced during a life of a person, and exceptions are burn due to a case of a burns or otherwise an advanced putrefaction. So these are two exclusions, and if these been presented, then we can't able to make a diagnosis of a fat embolism. And in case if a bone marrow fat is being scanty in case of a children, so that is the reason behind where children they less likely to develop a fat fat embolism, where 20 to 100 ml of free fat can cause an embolic death. Again, I repeat, if there been a presence of a fat droplets in a blood, it is indicate there been an injury during life, and before commenting on fat droplets, we need to exclude two of these conditions where there been a case associated with burns or otherwise there been an advanced putrefaction. The other names like if there been advanced decomposition signs on the deceased or dead body, then a case diagnosis of fat embolism is impossible. The clinical features will be patient present with cyanosis, pericardial pain, a rapid pulse, and a rapid respiration will be present, and the features of hyperpyrexia and petechial hemorrhages on all serosal membranes. At autopsy, where a fat droplets in small venules can be demonstrated in any part of a body, especially it can be demonstrated in conjunctiva, in part of a chest, and in axilla. Fat droplets can be demonstrated. If in case of a brain surfaces where it appears as a petechial hemorrhages spots in white matter of brain, and also appear as a ring of red blood cells around a necrotic zone of a brain tissue at the center of a small arteriole where a fat embolus may be plugged in, and other areas where a petechial hemorrhages can be seen are on the leptomeninges, and even minute patchy hemorrhages can be even detected on the parenchymal surfaces of brain, and associated edema hemorrhages are also seen. And if there been an CNS manifestations, then the patient will have a features of delirium, convulsions, stupor, and a sudden death. And here again, if there been a renal fat embolism, then the capillaries, and there will be a decreased GF glomerular filtration, and there will be an associated tubular damages, and the features of renal insufficiency can be demonstrated. To and a rapid identification of fat embolism, where a piece of lung in 20% caustic potash is being compressed within a cover slip, and it can be visualized for demonstrating fat droplets. And other way is by frozening the section of a lung and followed by staining with any of these three dyed materials. By doing a microscopic examination, we can able to identify or opine about fat embolism. And in air embolism, these are listed causes that can cause air embolism. First and foremost is incised wound on a part of a lower cervical region or on a clavicular region that involve in jugular or subclavian veins. And second such is any wound on a sagittal sinus inside a skull can result in air embolism. Third, in part of a negligence where a faulty technique which has been adopted while giving a intravenous injection can cause a air embolism. Fourth, any crush injury on a part of a chest, or fifth, by any sort of resuscitative maneuvers where the positive pressure ventilation in a newborn infant can stimulate air embolism. To obstetrical causes, and here where on procuring an abortion where injection of an air or on a fluid mixed air or on a soap water that has been injected in a pregnant uterus for procuring abortion can be fatal and it can result in air embolism. And seventh, any surgical procedures like cesarean section, version, or otherwise a manual extraction of a placenta can result in air embolism. Eighth is due to orogenital sex in a pregnant woman, and 9 is due to any sort of catheterization procedures. When and where you suspect a case of an air embolism, the autopsy should be performed as soon as possible after a death. And point number 2, we need to exclude features of putrefaction where a decomposition gases can set in within few hours after a death. So again, in case where there been an associated burns or if a dead body has gone to a phase of a decomposition, then making an attempt or a search for an air embolism is wasteful. First and foremost, after reading the INCOSE paper, other possible other possible documents that have been required, including treatment paper, etc., and by the history, where a near normal individual and the other causes, right? For example, if we take some causes like where we have admitted our dear ones for a treatment, if an injection has been given by the doctor and the doctor has failed to perform the procedure with adequate care and skill, and that has resulted in an immediate death of my relative, and relating to point number 3 in etiology, faulty technique in giving intravenous injections with any similar apparatus or an gravity, or otherwise there been just an injury or a part of a chest region and a sudden death that has been occurred, and here possibility could be of relating to etiology number 4, crush injuries on chest. Here it could be again, it can lead to a sudden vagal inhibition, one where on autopsy nothing can be demonstrated, or the second possibility, crush injury, part of a chest region, so the bones has gone for fracture, possibly a fat embolism, or if there been injury on part of any vessels, then it like more likely to be a case of an air embolism. And in cases where there been an incised wound on part of part of a neck and other, yes, more likely it can be a cause where an air embolism to be expected as a final cause of death. And in other cases, like where there been illegal procedures or for procuring a criminal abortion, and if there been a cesarean section, then we need to anticipate this as one such maybe, right, maybe a cause of death. And in other causes, etiologicals are rare, so just ignore those. And coming to the autopsy, and here before commencing commencing a proper autopsy, a dead body, a deceased body to be subjected for a whole body X-ray, and if there been presence of large quantities of hair, then an X-ray, by just on a simple X-ray we can able to come to an opinion, and followed by we can anticipate other precautionary steps that we don't routinely follow in other autopsy, where we follow for air embolism suspected cases, where point number 2, we don't do a routine ophthalmoscope examination in other cases, but in case of in a case of a suspected air embolism cases, where we do an ophthalmoscope examination. Before commencing an ophthalmoscope examination, first and foremost procedure is moistening the cornea with an isotonic saline. And here, if there been a presence of opaqueness, and even we have even in postmortem changes, we have discussed about how long a cornea be transparent, then when it becomes opaque, right? So by moistening with the cornea with an isotonic saline, we are clearing off, or we are minimizing the opaqueness of a cornea, so we can visualize properly the retinal arteries. And here in case, if there been a true case of an air embolism, then we can able to demonstrate air bubbles within the retinal arteries, and may serve as a guide or to the most advantageous way for a complete dissection. And here in case, the autopsy should be first, again recalling of this entire slide, first and foremost, whenever you suspect by the etiology, then we need to anticipate a probable case of an air embolism. Then we need to order for a complete whole body X-ray, and if there been detection of large quantities of air within the chest, within the X-rays, then we need to arrange for an ophthalmoscope examination. Then we need to look for retinal arteries for any presence of air bubbles, then followed by the dissection method. And here, by any of the incision methods, we are about to open the diseased cavities, and here there are some procedures. It is totally differing from the other cases. Here, sternoclavicular joint should not be opened in case of an air embolism, and followed by the lower part of a sternum is cut at the level of manubrium sternum, and after clamping the ascending aorta and the vena cava, then we need to fill the chest cavity with water, then identifying the coronary arteries, then making with the help of a scalpel, we need to just make an incision on the part of a coronary artery, then try to massage the remnant part of a coronary artery. Then if there been a presence of gas bubbles, presence of an air within the artery, then those air will escape as gas bubbles are being observed. and followed by identification of a pulmonary artery is being done and making an incision. If there been a presence of air within the pulmonary artery, then again the gases will try to escape. Then we can able to see gas bubbles within the chest cavity again. And each chamber of heart, we need to repeat the same procedure and look for air bubbles that have been rising on the surface of a water. And with the help of an asperometer, also we can measure the amount of air which can be analyzed by even gas chromatography. And in case of a microbiological examination of blood is essential in case of a in case of a air, in case of a suspected air embolism. How come? Here we need to collect a blood and followed by contents of a pericardial sac also. And here again our objective is to rule out the possible presence of any gas forming bacteria, especially clostridial groups, because if there been a presence of these bacteria, then they produce this gas forming reaction. Then it may stimulate or it may be an DD for an air embolism. So if there been a presence of these bacteria, then again the making an opinion relating to air embolism is questionary. And pericardial sac, right? So even from the previous slide as well as from this slide, here at this step, right, at this just prior to this step, we are not disturbing any chambers of heart, right? Only we are identifying the arteries and identifying the coronary arteries, and we are doing the procedure. Before to this step, right, before to the step of checking the chambers of heart, pericardial sac contents to be collected and it should be kept aside. Then we can subject those contents for a microbiological examination. Test here, we need to differentiate or we are about to opine on air embolism, and here we need to differentiate between the air and the decomposition gases. And with the help of an alkaline pyroglycol solution, when a gas that has been collected from a heart which has been brought into contact, if the solution, if it turns into brown in color, then it is a true-cut case of an air embolism. And if a solution remains clear, then it is of an decomposition gases. If the solution turns into brown, then it is a case of an air embolism. If the solution remains clear, then it is due to decomposition gases. And in extra other findings relating to air embolism at autopsy, where blood is fluid throughout the body, viscera are congested, petechial patches or petechial hemorrhages are present over the serosal surfaces and as well as in white matter of brain, and this indicates features of asphyxia on part of visceral surfaces. Part of viscera preservation, where routine viscera according to the demand of the case, it should be collected and followed by some specific viscera to be collected. Remember, again it is a repetition where blood need to be collected for microbiological examination and pericardial sac also to be collected. And here we need to rule out the presence of any gas forming bacteria that may stimulate the presence of air embolism. And other possible embolism, again these are rare, and just for a completion sake, tumor embolism. Here, the malignant tumor cells that they invade local blood vessels may form a tumor emboli, and where it's been launched and it produces signs and symptoms. And most commonly, it arises from a metastatic tumor deposits. Examples like clear cell carcinoma of kidney, carcinoma of lung, and malignant melanoma. And again, the rarest of possibilities were miscellaneous emboli, and based on the content, whether it either it could be an endogenous material or an exogenous substances, can act as an emboli. Fragments of tissues, placental fragments, red cell aggregates, bacteria, parasites, or following an barium enema procedure, or otherwise in a foreign body. It could be of a needle, a talc, a suture material, or on a bullet, or otherwise in a catheters. Can act as in a foreign bodies, and these are listed of miscellaneous emboli. Thank you so much for your patient listening. If there have been any doubt, queries relating to the content that has been discussed in this video, kindly address through your queries in the comment section below, or otherwise text your queries through the social media links provided in description section. Thank you so much.